Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Musings and Monologues, a thought provoking and controversial platform for the average educated English speaking Indian, delving into areas of such diversity as society, art, culture, literature, politics, and cinema. Today we shall talk about the legacy of Satyajit Ray, unarguably the greatest Indian filmmaker to have been born since the inception of cinema in India. We are not here to talk about the greatness of Ray's works, whose mastery goes unquestioned till the late 60s. It's post the time that Ray became the operative cameraman of his films and the loss of his friend, the production designer Bansi Chandragupta, that the quality of the Ray's aesthetics descended as he discovered the zoom that was another major setback in terms of creating images that resonate in our hearts right from the realm of Pothir Panchali to Aranya Din Ratri. Post the advent of color, Ray somehow went berserk as an operative cameraman on wobbly trolleys and constantly zooming in and zooming out in the tradition of popular Indian cinema. We are not talking about the scripts that still remained engaging and intelligent, with great dollops of humor, sarcasm, and concern about the society at large. Ray started to become more contemporary by trying to translate the literary works of the people like Sunil Gangopadhyay, Shankar, to keep abreast with contemporary issues and exploration of contemporary ideas. We shall talk here about the last three films of Ray, in which, as a sick man, he was unable to fulfill the demands of a filmmaker whose aesthetics was so highly recognized and respected in an early era gone down to dust. The cinematography and the lighting in the last three films of Ray were banal, were absolutely like the tradition of any average, not so well made commercial cinema in India. Moreover, the art direction was extremely tacky and shabby, which actually reminded us of Ray's another colleague, the late Bansi Chandragupta, who was the production designer of Ray films till the early 70s. Post his death, Ray chose to even take over the realm of art direction in cinema, and that proved to be his undoing. His last screenplay, Agantuk, was brilliantly conceived and well written, but when you see it as a cinematic experience, it fails to meet the standards that were set by contemporary international filmmakers, and hence, in the last years of his life, Ray hardly had any presence in the international circuit, a circuit in which he was once toasted and celebrated by the likes of someone as great as Kurosawa, Roger Ebert, and their like critics like Pauline Kael always heaped praises on the work on the early works of Ray. Even if you look at an earlier color film of his, shot by Subrata Mitra, the first color film of Ray, Kanchenjunga, you will be amazed by the dexterity with which the cinematographer actually maneuvers through the very cleverly constructed plot line, the first story of Ray himself, which he chose to use as the platform to start his individual enterprise, bereft of any other literary components from the realm of literature. However, Ray chose to become relevant by incorporating the works of Sunil Gangopadhyay, Shankar, and their like to remain focused on contemporary issues that these literateurs were engaged in and celebrated for. But if you look at the last three films of Ray, Ganashatru, Shakha Prashakha, and Agantuk, they were one was based on Ibsen's famous play Enemy of the People, but what it showed was a very tacky and snapshot approach to cinema. Many of Ray devotees always say that Ray was very sick and hence could not function properly as a filmmaker of substance anymore. But then, many others who criticize this attempt argue that Ray should have gracefully retired. That would have been a better thing to do than engage in the lack of sophistry and aesthetics in the last three films of his. The art direction of all these films are very, very, very pedestrian and very tacky. The cinematography, in which Ray becomes the operative cameraman, or his son then chooses to take on the mantle of his father and become the operative cameraman of his father's films, is where the shoddiness emerges. We have wobbly trolley shots, the continuous use of zoom, almost like a act of masturbation, going in and out, with little value to the image which Ray so much celebrated in the first 15, 20 years of his career. However, there exists a great amount of doubt about the greatness of Ray in the context of all these minor mistakes, as his devotees call it, and as his critics stick on to, saying that this proved to be Ray's undoing. Well, I would want to welcome your opinions regarding the same. Please write to us in the link below or share a video with us about your thoughts on this subject, and we shall be very, very happy to engage in a similar conversation with you regarding the work and legacy of Satyajit Ray. Please write to us at sudchat, SUDCHAT 2020 at gmail.com, or post your video on Facebook or Instagram, and we shall incorporate them in our discussions. Remain engaged, and please follow this daily foray into your lives in the times of the pandemic. However, I assure you, even when the pandemic is eventually over, we shall still continue with this journey, as then it would, I hope and pray, inshallah, become an intrinsic part of all your lives. So that is all for today. Thank you and welcome for watching this program.